Welcome back to Dream Car Garage. Well, the Hemi Challenger has come back from the Sandblaster, Proctor and Fishburne, and here it sits in legendary Motorcar with Peter Clute. What's with the gloves?
Well, you have to put these on because you have a habit of leaning on cars.
I've heard that before from somewhere. You know, this sound always makes me feel just the slightest bit uncomfortable. It reminds
Heart rate goes up a little?
Yeah, reminds me of the annual race medical. Okay, I'll quit them on here.
Well, the reason we do that actually, and the first thing we do is we put those on when you come back, because on bare metal like this, what you have to watch out for is it's real susceptible to the oil from your hand. You know, your skin is always breathing, there's oil there. If you touch the bare metal, you'll get a fingerprint mark, and you won't see it right now. But after you prime it, and possibly a year later, 2 years later, you get this fingerprint blistering up beneath the paint, and it was from touching it at this stage.
No kidding, huh? Normally at this stage, this is when the doctor says, just relax. So if there was touched by somebody, what's the way to treat it?
What we do is when we get it back and it's all vacuumed out and has been blown out with the blower and everything, we've got as much sand out of it. If somebody's touched it, we use a roll-lock wheel. So if there's any contamination, this goes over the entire surface, the exterior surface, and this makes it perfect for priming.
So not only does it remove the oil from the surface, it also gives you the good John DeLorean look as well. It strikes me this is a good opportunity for the body man to go all over the car and look for any imperfections at that time.
Right, and while he's doing that, he's literally going over every square inch of this car, so he's going to find any little rust hole, he's going to find any dents, he's going to find just about every little imperfection on the car.
Well, and then you'll want to get this thing covered up as quickly as possible, won't you? How long will it stay in this state?
Literally the one day. We get it back, we vacuum it out, we blow it out, we roll-lock wheel it, and we put it into primer.
All right. Well, the first thing that struck me when I saw this is this great big patch in here. Is this a problem?
No, this is actually the original lead seam for the quarter panel. And this is a good thing. We know it's got original quarter panels. Now what we've got here is in the bottom of the quarter panel, this area here actually didn't look too bad, but you can see all the pinholes starting.
So somebody has actually addressed that before to make it look good for you in the first place, perhaps with some body filler.
That's all they did, is they filled this with body filler. They'd never even made a repair there. And it's hard to tell unless you've got it blistering or anything like that. But when it was, you know, it was pretty decent here, it's hard to say what you've got underneath until you get it stripped.
It strikes me that this is a dilemma. Do you replace the whole quarter panel and give up the originality, or do you address that as a patch?
We've got Keith here who can make this section really easy.
So it really wasn't that big a surprise, but you did have a real big surprise with a Porsche earlier. At what point do you decide it's just not going to be worth it?
Well, that's up to the owner. At that point, we'll phone him, bring him in, show him what he's got, and give him some alternatives. I mean, sometimes the car really isn't worth saving. Other times the owner will say, hey, I've had it since brand new. Let's go through it and fix it, and it becomes a real expensive restoration when literally every panel needs to be replaced.
Well, speaking of expensive, it strikes me the most challenging part of this car turns out to be this trunk floor. I think you said it was going to be a problem, but it looks a lot rougher than I thought it was going to be.
Actually, it's not that bad, because it really doesn't matter if you have a dozen pinholes or the whole trunk, like this one, full of pinholes. The trunk panel has to be replaced.
So even if you had a few, you'd be replacing this panel anyway?
Yeah.
All right, well, here's a little area that kind of sticks out once it's been blasted. Did you and Mark notice this before you started?
No, we didn't. The last guy that did this car was better with the body filler than he was with the metalwork.
So what happened here? A little parking lot incident?
Yeah, he probably just backed it into something. No major damage here, but you can see it's been wrinkled, and then he's just soldered it up a little bit.
Now, what's going to happen here? A whole new panel or something that Keith can do?
Keith will make this whole corner section of both the quarter panel and the taillight panel. Again, with any sort of restoration, you want to save the original panels if you can. You know, later on, if it's had a repair that's been butt welded in and ground, you can't even tell it's been done, and it still has original quarter panels.
All right, now you and Mark did notice that there were some problems with the front of the car, right?
Right, there's some stress cracks there, and they're real apparent now.
Okay, just take a look.
You can see, Tom, we were talking before about the big Hemi motor, all the torque on the firewall. There's the crack, and it's really exposed, and on the other side you can see the same thing. One of the things we weren't really counting on, again, was where the windshield lies in here. You can see it's fairly rusty here. We got a bunch of pinholes and some bigger holes. We're going to have to make some sections all around this window frame. There's another one up on the top corner that's going to have to be repaired.
So you've got your work cut out for you. How many hours are you going to invest into this car in this state before you put primer on it?
Realistically, 3 days, it's all said and done.
Now, the metalwork that has to be done in the car will be done after it's put into primer, correct?
Correct. Everything, first primer, then all the metalwork gets done, and then we reprime it again.
You know, I just realized I do lean on the car a lot.
All the time. They came in handy.
I guess they did.